Hey guys, so I've been a baseball fan as long as I can remember. I grew up right outside the Cleveland area, so I was a Cleveland Indians fan my entire life. And now, of course, I'm a Guardians fan. Um, I love baseball, absolutely love it. It's my dad's favorite sport. I have a lot of great memories surrounding baseball, so it's always going to be special in my heart. And don't get me wrong, love my Guardians. Uh, there's an interesting little thing though that happened, and of course we know that they did end up changing their name from the Indians to the Guardians. Not a problem there. The problem comes in with the name Guardians, and it's a cool name, Cleveland Guardians. That sounds like a really cool name for a baseball team. But the problem comes in here. Just so happens that Cleveland has a professional sports team called the Guardians, and they are a roller derby team, but professional nonetheless. They are called the Cleveland Guardians. Here's the logo for the Cleveland Guardians roller derby team, and you can see that it's looks pretty cool there, right? Huh? That's because they have the rights to the statues that the Guardian logo is based on, and the Guardian comes from. If you're not familiar with the Cleveland area, there's the Hope Memorial Bridge, and there are, I believe, it's 8 statues that stand over the bridge that are called the Guardians of Transportation, and that's where uh, you know we get that logo from. Now, problem is they own the rights to that. So the Cleveland Guardians baseball team could not use anything close to that. Otherwise, there would be a copyright infringement. They can't, create a logo that looks like the Guardians logo. And unfortunately, the only thing that Guardian really means is, and why it's associated with the team in Cleveland, is because we have the Guardians on the bridge, and Guardians, it's a cool name, Cleveland Guardians, kind of cool. But the problem comes in now is what they had to do in order to get the name Guardians is, it's kind of, to me, I could, Jim, compare it to like if you're in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh all of a sudden they have a lacrosse team and they want to call it the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their logo is going to probably end up looking more like this, because it has to be totally different than the original. And I've over the years I've gone through a number of different jobs and positions, and even in my own companies where I had to design logos. I designed T-shirts. Uh, I've designed brochures. I've designed letterheads. I've designed all kinds of different things. And when you do these things professionally, you know what goes into it. You know how much back and forth. Very rarely would you present a business with a logo and have them right off the bat go, yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Usually they give you some feedback. Maybe you might show them a couple different designs, and then they'll give you feedback and they'll say, well, we like this one. Could you work more on that one? But we want to add like this to it, or this kind of vibe to it. So there would be a lot of back and forth between client and artist, or client and whoever they happen to be working with, a firm or what have you. And if it's a firm, obviously there's steps that are taken through there. You have the artist doing or designing some type of logo, and of course his boss, perhaps art director, is going to look at it, and he's going to give his yays and nays. And before that's even presented to the ultimately the client, there's a lot of back and forth. And that's why I want to talk about the Cleveland Guardians logo. And I have to say that every time I look at the Guardians logo, it it breaks my brain just a little bit more. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So what we have here is our Cleveland Guardians logo. It's the Guardians logo. And if we break this down, into its elements, we see that it appears to be a baseball. And then we have two G's with wings apparently glued to the ball. Okay, that's we break that down. So what does that mean? I don't really know what that means. I don't know why the G is taped to the ball. There's a lot of questions I have about this particular logo, but just the first thing that kind of jumps out at you is it appears to be almost like an isometric view, which would be something like this. And bring you back to geometry here for some of you. You have these projections. This is the top, front, and right side. You're projecting it onto the front here. And then, the top is getting projected down. And then the right side is this way, coming in from that side. And just another quick example, same thing here on this on graph paper, which makes it a little easier to read. But you can see how each one of these measurements, each one of these lines indicates, a line in the front. So we can see just by this rectangular view of the top and the front that we can project this side view just by having these two. And therefore we can project what appears to be a 3D object, but it's not 3D, it's isometric. And would find most would be maybe directions. If you, put or bought a table and you had to put it together, you would see an isometric layout of like, here's the legs, here are the bolts that it came with, and here's how you do step one, here's how you do step two, and everything is drawn isometrically. These lines will ever converge. They are parallel lines, and that does not happen in 3D space. This is just a representation, and it is more for the purposes of showing, surfaces, showing measurements. When we get into what we actually see, that's the wrong one, sorry. I think this explains it all pretty well. You have a square, which is a 2D shape. You have some form, this oblique, where it's projecting another surface, yet that surface is, these two lines do not converge at all. Then we get into what we actually see as humans. We are into perspective. And there are three types of perspective. And this is a 1-point perspective. This is, the most simplest of, examples here, where we can see, unlike this here and unlike the isometric view, where if I continue to draw this line, these two lines will never converge at a vanishing point. Whereas what we see things in perspective, and they do converge to a vanishing point. You see this like very noticeable when you see train tracks. You see them get smaller as they go into the distance. That is the truest sense of 1-point perspective. 2-point perspective, pretty self-explanatory as well. Just when we see things and we're not only looking at them from, we are at a different angle, and we're viewing, how we get the distance of these sides, and then they run off to a vanishing point there and another here. So we get that dimensional information going in both directions. So this be almost like we're looking kind of down from the top corner of maybe a building. There'd be the parking lot down here and the building goes back, but we are seeing 2 points of perspective. Then the tricky one is 3-point perspective, but it's really not that tricky at all. This doesn't make it quite as obvious, but if I just mention one thing, I think you'll see it immediately. So with 3-point perspective, we're taking 2 points. That still remains our 2-point perspective coming off of here. And well, where's the third point of perspective? Well, if this building was, 40 stories, we could draw those lines up, and eventually, from the perspective that we're at, where we're looking at it right here, these lines will converge up in the clouds somewhere. And like I said, if it was actually drawn as it's represented as a building, if it was just another couple stories higher, you'd really understand that 3-point perspective. So that all just goes back to let's take a look at our logo again. So it's not really an oblique. It's not really isometric, and it's certainly not 3D. So what is it exactly? So the first thing I did was, okay, I've got to look at this like it is an isometric view. Let me see how this is all laid out. So I just took out my trusty ruler and I drew straight lines where these lines are going. And I mean, if this doesn't break your brain, then nothing will, because none of these lines match up. The most obvious, if we look back here, like I said, if we go back to something that is a little more of an isometric view, it's very clear that if I extend these lines, they're going to match, as they continue along, like right in here or right in here. They should match. This should be the same as this one. These should be parallel. These lines should run parallel, or they have to do something different. They have to be in perspective. But when I go back and I look at it, it's not really, I don't know what the perspective is, because it's a nonsensical representation of what is only can be described as G's with wings on them glued to a baseball. I don't know how else to describe it, but if you look at it, at the way these lines just casually drift off at various angles, man, that's all kinds of wrong. I can't picture this, in my head. It just, none of this makes sense. And why it doesn't make sense is because it appears very hand drawn. There might have been some straight edge drawings here and there, but this looks like somebody slapped it together. And I mean hand drawn in the sense that it really, there were no measurements. There was no, let's measure this against that. Like if you gave this perspective, none of this makes sense. Even if there is no perspective, I don't know what wacky land this ball is living in, but it doesn't make any sense with the perspective that's there. And also, it's like it only makes sense from one side. It only makes sense from this side and this view. If you were to, let's say, make this into a 3D object, and then what if we turn it around the other way? Actually, I think this looks better than the logo itself, because it breaks away. Because the G is backwards, it looks more like a shape than an actual letter, which makes it look cooler than when you turn it around the other way and put the G. And why not just the G itself? Why not just have this G by itself without the baseball? Just a flat, have the wings coming off of it, have that flat little, just a flat surface G. It would look kind of cool. And I guess the real reason that we can't do that is because we got to come back here again, and we got to look at this right here. What do we got here? We've got the G, and we've got the feathers, or whatever you want to call them, the wings coming off the back, and they beat him to the punch here. So unfortunately, When we go back, like I said, it's a mess. And why, guys? Why does this have to look like this? I don't understand what what we were going for with this, and how did this get like I can't explain it to you people. I can't break it down and explain. If my boss asked me, well, what were you going with here? I'd be like, I don't know, man. I mean, because if you look at the distance between where this G is and this one is, that's not very far at all. I mean, it makes that ball look like it should be a pancake, uh, because it doesn't nothing. Like I said, I've gone through all the options. These are all the options, and it does not fit into any one of these. So, hey, Guardians, man, I love you guys to death. But let's say we do a little something with this logo, huh? Huh? You think we can maybe get it changed? I'm hoping. I love you guys, but we got to get a better logo. So I hope you enjoyed our little adventure today. I really appreciate you guys coming by. Thank you. That's all I got for you today. We'll see you next time, guys.